Welcome back, everyone. In this video, we are going to look into the next authentication method, that is the Dot1x method, which is the secure one because it uses the username and password. Now, what do you mean by the Dot1x? Dot1x is the IEEE standard. It's IEEE, that means international standard for media level, that is layer 2 access, offering the capability to permit or deny network connectivity based on identity of the end user or device. So basically, you can use your device MAC address as the username and the password using the certificates. You can also authenticate and authorize, or you can get the username and details that are username and password set on the particular adapter or the via the portals. The need for the secure network access has never been greater, so consultants, contractors, and guests are now required to access the network resources over the same VLAN connection as regular employees. So you may have a bring an unmanaged device into the workplace. So basically, when a lot of people are coming in and joining onto the same network within the same data VLAN, that's where the problem arises because those are unmanaged. So we have to make sure that they are the appropriate persons logging into your network securely with the right credentials. So now coming to the 802.1x, again with the same thing. If you see that with the port on the port level, by default, there is no traffic will be allowed, but after the authentication, the traffic will be allowed. This is the same as the map authentication, similar. Now coming to the high level sequence, the only difference here will be that when we had on the second stage on the map authentication, this is where everything goes finished. That means they got the MAC address. MAC address was authenticated, and the second step itself, we got the acknowledgement saying that it is an access accept, and after that, it implemented the authorization. Over here, you will have a little bit more process over because we are sending the username and the password. So basically, when the authentication takes place, the switch will request for the username and the password. So when the username and password is provided, switch will forward that one to the ICE, and ICE will check that one. So once everything looks good, then only it will implement the access accept, and it will push that employee authorization profile, and after that it will start accounting for it. Now again, between these two devices, it's an E protocol. That means username, you can see that the username, but you cannot see the password. Password is encrypted. All right, so that's what it is with the Dot1x. So since we have discussed very much in detail with the map authentication, so we shouldn't be having much problem in doing the Dot1x. So let's go to the lab now for the Dot1x. So all right, so everything is in place. So we do not configure anything. The only difference is that I will go to administrator. First, I will define the identity. So that means I'm creating a user internally. So what I can say that I can create a user one, which is an internal user, and I can create a password saying that Cisco 0123 and the password Cisco 0123. If you can provide the user one as a full name, last name, and I'm selecting this one as an employee group, and that's it. So now I'm using the password do not match. Okay, so let's click on submit. So okay, email, internal user. Yep. Okay, let me go back, click on OK, click on add user. Why it is taking that admin? Okay. All right, so now you see that I am able to create a new user. This should be user one, and the login password. This is where it was using the default one, so that's what the problem. I deleted that one. It should be Cisco 0123 and Cisco 0123. And I will just put that into this one, and here I will say user one and click on submit. So I created a new user in the internal database. So I am just authenticating the user with respect to the ICE internal database. Now coming to the switch, what changes do I need to do is that I need to enable the Dot1x. So if I say config one Dot1x system auth control, So this is the only command we have to provide here now. Now coming to that same port interface gig 0/2, what I can do is that authentication, since I am doing the map authentication as well as Dot1x authentication, both of them, because the map is already configured. So what I can say that authentication order will be map then Dot1x, but when I want to look for the authentication, first priority I want to give it to Dot1x, then I want to give the second priority as Dot1 map. Since map is already been configured, next one will be Dot1x PAE authenticator and notions. So this is what now the map is also configured on the same port and the Dot1x configured on the same port. But according to our scenario, we do not require the map, but still I'm configuring. But what I did say was the priority is to check for the map, sorry, Dot1x, then the second priority is the map. So now what I can do is that now everything is done. So let's go back to the ICE because I need to make some changes on the uh, policy. So authorization profile, I will make no changes on the authorization profile. It's still the same, but the only change will be that here. So now instead of doing the wired map, now I will do wired Dot1x. So I will remove that one, click on yes. So once the condition is clear, now I will select wired 802.1x as a condition. And here, instead of selecting endpoints, now I will select internal user because I don't have any external user for now. The other thing will be in the authorization also. I will do the same thing instead of doing the looking for the map authentication. I will look for the Dot1x authentication. So once these conditions have been matched, then my PC should be able to have access. Right, so I will remove this one. Okay. And now I will match the condition that is 802.1x and I will click on use. And now the same thing, nothing has been changed. Only thing is that now the authentication has been changed from map to Dot1x. So now once the authentication is been successfully saved, the policy. So let's go back to the operation live logs. And also I will do a refresh because it's now I will go back to my PC now. Now this time on this PC, what I can do is that I can right click, go to the properties now, go to the authentication, go to the settings, make sure that you don't want to validate by the certificate because we are not doing certificate validation, and click on configure here. So and make sure that you unchecked because we are not using the Windows login credentials. So click on OK and go back here to additional settings. This is where you will specify that I want to do a user authentication. Click on save credentials and here you will say that user 1 and the password will be Cisco 0123. Click on OK and OK and OK. So it should attempt to re-authenticate now. So if the re-authentication is successful, that means we are able to get the IP, we are able to get the, and here you see that still the same, doesn't make any difference over here, but we can see that I got the network. But if I go back to my switch and if I say that do show authentication session interface gig 0/2 details, now this is where I want to see that it is all being authorized, but still it is going with the MAC address. You see that? So these were the previous credentials. So that's the reason it is happening. So what I will do now, right click and disable that adapter and come back to my switch. And if I say that do clear authentication session, so the session was already authenticated before and it did not expire. So I'm just clearing that session now. Now we'll go back and right click and enable now. It should attempt to do a new authentication. And now you see that map is failing. That's fine because I'm looking for the Dot1x. Now, if I come back here, now I should see a user now, Dot1x with the same MAC address, with the same policies. Everything is the same. The only difference is the authentication type has now been changed to map to the .1x, and now I'm seeing the username. Now let's verify the same thing on that one. Do show authentication session interface geek 0/2 details. Now this is where now I can see that username is user1, which is been authorized, multi-auth, and it says that it did not get any IP address. So after a while it will be updated, but you see that .1x authentication suffix. So let me go ahead now. You see that it has been updated 10.1.4.2. So now if I come back here and if I look on the report now, you see that what all the different things the ICE has checked before it allows. So for the .1x, you see that it's a very long list over here, what it is going to look one by one, one by one. All right, finally, it's an access accept. And after that, there is another one, which is the actual authentication. So which is where it is going to send the DACL, which is IP permit all traffic. Now this is with respect to the internal database. What about the Active Directory as the external database? For that one, we can go to the administrator in the identity management, going to the external identity source, and I will go to the Active Directory, and I will click on this one. I will add the Active Directory now. And enter the domain name, click on submit, and it will ask you to join that domain. So click on yes, and enter the username, that is administrator, and that should be moise123 hash. Now this user can be anyone who has a domain level permission. So that's what the username you have to provide. And now you see that when I am trying to add the Active Directory, it is adding to both ICE1 and ICE2 because they are synchronized with each other. It's a two-node deployment. Now what I can do is that now I will go back here and I will look for the user and I will try to log in with that particular user. So user and computer and users. And I've already have Moise as the user created. So what I will do is that I will just go back here. I will right click and I will change the properties. But now before I change the credentials over here, or I will change the credential, then I will go back to the ICE. So cancel, go to the authentication, go to the additional, replace credentials. I will say that Moise at sysable.com and the password should be capitalize small b 12345. Click on OK, 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 and I will just disable. You see that authentication already failed. Okay, it says that .1x been failed because it will fail because I have to tell the ICE that you need to look for the Active Directory user, not the internal user. So going back to the policy and the policy sets, within that policy set on the in the authentication, which where I'm looking for the user from the internal user. This time I'm looking from the user from the sysable, that is my domain user. So click on save. So once that is been saved, now what I can do is that I can go back to my PC. Now I can enable that adapter, come back to the switch, and here still the map is failing. That's fine. Do show authentication session interface geek 0/2 details. And now here you see that moise at sysable.com.au. Now instead of what's happening here is that instead of user one now, the user is moise at sysable.com. So if I go back to the ICE and go back to the operation and live logs, and now here I should see that it's moise at sysable.com. So let's look at the report of that one. Okay, looks like it's giving me a lot of trouble. So what I will do, I will just log off and close this Microsoft for Mozilla Firefox, and I will reconnect to the ICE. Right, so it is logging in. So let's go back to the operations. Let's go back to the radius logs. And now let's look into this one. And on the query, you see that in the EAP request proposing PEEP with challenges with radius accept. So new session was created. Okay. Said that it initiated a TLS handshake, which was also again successful. You see that first it finishes the E protocol, that is a PEEP handshake first. After finishing up that one handshake, it started to authenticate the user, started to look for the user. See that EAP responding containing EAP MS chap, and you see that normalized radius flow, and the selected identity source was accessible, that is my domain directory, and resolving identity, which is moisaccessible.com. Searching for the match found in the forest of this one, and login request succeeded, and after that it's an active directory user which has been succeeded, so authentication was passed. So these are the different queries which has ICE has done in order to complete that process, and after that it has given me the permissions to permit IPv4 any the DACL. It has pushed the DACL. So that was the .1x. So if I come back to the PC just for the confirmation, if I do ping google.com, that should be resolved, I think, or it is not. Let me do ping a.a.it, and it is able to ping. All right, so that was the .1x. I hope this was informative for you, and thank you.